Now I'm starting with this chest, and it's a napkin chest made by American Table Company. And on it are antique silver pieces. The piece in the center is an antique English poacher, poaches eggs. And there is a little pot here that is a teapot from Indonesia, given to me. The other is candles in the little silver plate that you can flip the lid open and you burn the candles. The most valuable piece in the house, in all probability, with antique dealers, it is a Jackson press. And my husband, there's quite a story to it. My husband buried old man out in the country, and it was back in the days when you took care of the people in the homes. And this was sitting on the back porch with a lye can on the top, with a hole eaten in the top of the Jackson press, and the one door was hanging. But my husband loved antiques, and he had a vision for getting it fixed up. So he didn't say anything to the widow that day, but he had it on his mind, and a few weeks later, he went with the delivery truck from the store and visited some of his friends in the county. Among them was this widow. And he, in conversation, asked her if she would donate that or sell that Jackson press. She said, well, she hadn't thought about it, but he didn't call it a Jackson press. He said that piece of furniture with the lye on it. And she said, well, she didn't know what she'd do with her things. And so he said he could give her a little metal table to put on the porch, and she thought that would be an excellent idea. So he gave her a little table, and then he gave her $40 for this piece, and he restored the Jackson press. When we bought the house and aired it in 1980, there was a little ugly pane glass there. We took it out and took the measurements of the opening and went to Murray with a scrap of the wallpaper, and the specialist over there made the window and used the colors that were in the wallpaper. And I've had lots of pleasure with it, because when the sun comes through, it looks so pretty all through the house. Tea cart, and that's an antique of Aunt Stella's. She was the aristocrat of Marion back at the turn of the century. And her husband was a druggist, one of the earliest druggists in Marion, Rob Haynes. And the silver on it have been gifts through the years. The chafing dish was given to us as a wedding gift, and the tray was given to us as a Christmas present. The soup tureen on the bottom shelf was given to us by Maud Rogers, and she and her second husband went on a trip to Canada, and she saw it and liked it, and he bought it for her, and they used it until she decided to give it to me about 75 years ago, I guess. It has a ladle in it and a tray it sits on, and you put it on the table after you have served the soup to your guests. Then you have the extra soup in this tureen. It keeps it hot, and you can give your guests a second cup of soup. This next thing is the china cabinet, and that was Mr. and Ms. Tucker's when they were married in 1906. It was what they started keeping house with. Some of the glassware in it is from that vintage too. Some of it was from them, and some of it from my family, and from cousin Eula Clements. The preserve stands on top were Eula Clements. She was a cousin that lived out in the country. That's our wedding dishes of 1943. 75 years old they are, and that was given to Thomas and I, on our wedding my mother and my sister, they ordered it through the store that she worked in, and it's a Theodore Haviland china. I have all 8 service pieces, but a chip on 1 or 2, and we eat off of it occasionally. That came with the house, and it was bought by the Hayneses, who had lived in this house, the only people that really lived in it, and they had it ordered specially for this size room. It has pedestal bases. You can pull it apart, and it'll make a round 54-inch table. The chairs are various chairs. There were no chairs with it, and we had some at our house and on Belleville Street. Yes, they're all Duncan 5, and I've upholstered them and had the finishes redone. Right. The buffet was the Tuckers. It was in their dining room on North Main Street. And that is about from 1900 on. The frame I bought at a place in Paducah, lights on each side, and the chandelier we purchased with our extravagance in repairing the house. And I put the ceiling medallions up myself. The punch bowl has a story to it. My husband, when we'd been married 5 years, he was in the funeral business, and he went to Louisville one Christmas, before Christmas, for a conference, and he was in Stewart's store, and he saw this punch bowl and cups, and he thought it was so pretty. He bought it for my Christmas present. And of course, after being married 5 years, we didn't have any business with a silver punch bowl, but we've enjoyed it ever since. And the candelabra was given to us as a wedding gift. It's from Bob Crooks. There were some silver goblets on the second shelf, I believe. They were a gift from Mr. and Ms. Barrowby in 1980. The crystal is just acquired. I don't know. The Turene's covered vegetable dish was Eula Clements. And these 2 dishes were also Eula Clements, and they're all vintage china. Now, this gold trim china, it was the Hayneses, and it is Nortaki. And the service plates are also Nortaki, I believe. And they were bought in 1930s by the Hayneses. Now, this last door, this little stack of china, all went through the 1905 fire in Marion. The town was burning, and Mr. Haynes was the druggist, and Ms. Haynes was the aristocrat of town. When we had court in town, the aristocrats of town would entertain them with lunch, and they were having lunch at the Haynes house, and the house, they knew the town was burning on Main Street, but the wind changed and blew it over toward the Haynes house. So the lawyers and judges that were there had Mr. Haynes climb ladders and took quilts and drawed water to wet the quilts and put on the roof to keep the house from burning, and that house still stands just behind Foes Hall. But these dishes were on the table that she had food on ready to serve, and they survived the fire. So we've kept them as a good story. The cabinet itself we bought from Carol Hearn when her husband died, and she moved away from Marion and had some pieces of furniture to sell. And she had originally bought it at Tucker Furniture several years earlier, so Thomas thought it was a good thing to buy it back from her since she had bought it from his father. And I have flat silver in these drawers. The old master sterling is a set of it that was given to us at marriage by Mr. and Miss Tucker. And my mother and sister gave us the china, so we had good china and good silver. And back in the time of World War II, silver and china were popular wedding gifts. I had some little gravy ladles also down here that are sterling. The fireplace was it was a very plain mantel and a built-in mirror above it, all very simple. And me being in the decorating business, I didn't like that, and I ordered this trim especially for this mantel. And we owned that mirror already. That's one of the vintage mirrors of the country with 13 knobs, first 13 colonies. And we wanted to show it off, so we fixed the mantel to blend with it. I ordered all this gingerbread work, and the carpenter glued it on. The hearth and the backdrop are the same, and the silver fire screen came with it. Now there's a parlor suit. This chair, the rocking chair, and the settee by you were all three called a parlor set, and they were sold to the nuns. Judge and Sally Nunn started keeping house in 1859 and had this parlor set with them. So it's a three-piece parlor set. I found it in the attic at the furniture store and drug it out, and the boys redid the work of woodwork, and I reupholstered all the seats of it. Now we go to the corner cupboard. That is made in Virginia, and Gwendolyn Haynes had it in her home there, and when she broke up housekeeping there and became ill, we brought her to Marion and furnished her a place to live, and she had that in her home, and so we acquired it. And there is the top shelf has a French coffee service, silver coffee service. That was a gift to Mr. and Ms. Barrowby, also in 1859. And there is a Tiffany vase about the third shelf, kind of green and silver. It's of value in there, but the other is just good quality silver pieces and crystal. Yes, all up on top of and I thought that's called a buttermilk pitcher. Back in the old days, they served a lot of buttermilk. And I thought it was a pretty pitcher, so I painted one like it in about 1948 or 49. And it was from the Tucker Furniture Store, I suspect, but Gwendolyn had it also in her home. Now the dog table I don't want us to pass up. That was Ms. Kaltinsky's table, and it was a popular item in Marion about the turn of the century. And she would offer to sell it, and then she'd change the price on it and wouldn't sell it. And finally, Thomas bought it when she died. Oh yes, the dog in the dining room was a doorstop that came with the house, and one like it was appraised on Antique Roadshow for $800, I believe. And these little tables were popular back in the 40s and 50s, and instead of using a coffee table, you used these little tables and you could move them around, called cigarette tables. That's when everybody smoked. Now there's some little vintages on them. The silver heart was given to me by my sunshine sister. It has my wedding date on it. And the little match holder I bought in Bangkok, Thailand, when I was there. The bird there is a music box, love song, on the little table. It was a gift. They came from the store. They're good quality. We've had them 50 or 60 years. Yes, that it must be recorded. That came up from New Orleans on a pack boat in 18 something. The date is on the inside of the door. And it was a wardrobe. It brought up the Ohio River. It's kind of hard to see, but it was upside down, printed on. We got the door upside down, to tell you the truth. Tom and I put it together. It's made with wooden pegs. You could take it apart. We moved it over here in the station wagon. Yes, that's a solid walnut drop leaf dining table. And that was Gwendolyn Haynes's. She had in her Winchester, Virginia home.
This article in 1913, the Crittenden Press says that this is the oldest clock in Crittenden County.
Called the Pickens clock, wasn't it?
Yes.
I just thought that would tell it better than I could. We looked as a picture of Tom and I on the wall. You may not think it needed to be done, but that was our 50th wedding anniversary, and the picture was made at the Methodist Church. And the plaque above it was a gift from Carol and Shell Marshall for our wedding anniversary. 1976 was the dedication, or the bicentennial, but Kentucky observed it 2 years earlier. And so this picture was actually made in 74. And I had made the costumes. We lived over on Belleville Street at the time. I made the costumes, and so Thomas was the county chairman for the bicentennial, and he had 10 tickets to go to Frankfurt to the Falderall up there. We got ready to go and invited our guests, and the night before I thought, well, we'd better try those outfits on and see if they fit. So we put them on and called Ronnie Hodge, who lived close by, and took pictures some in Marion, and he made the picture. And so I made the costumes, and after Tom's death, I saw them hanging, and it bothered me, so I gave them to the museum. Now, they're 1800 vintages. They were Gwendolyn's, and that was a style. They're real low, hard to sit in because they're so low. The round table in the corner with the bouquet of white flowers on it is a handmade solid table made by the Clements off of the Clement farm, and it has a value of $1,700. It's a folding top, and it has a little hinge a catch that folds down like a screen wire catch. And the piano is a big number in there. That's an antique piano, has a date of 1864. And it has the wooden works. Thomas saw the piano tuner tuning it. It wouldn't hold tune, so he took all the fixtures to the attic, and it was about the time that Yamaha machines came out, so he bought a Yamaha to fit in it, and you can sit and play it and pretend you're playing the old piano. And that picture you're looking at, I painted, and the one over the piano came out of the Tucker Furniture Store. Yeah, they were Mildred Crofts, and when she died, Mary Jane Watson had always wanted them, and Mary Jane had died pretty soon thereafter, so I got those little tables in memory of Mary Jane from Mildred Crofts' estate. They're stacked tables. The small one was set under the other one, you know. And now the two matching chairs there with the wine stripe were the host and hostess chair that we used, but they're such heavy chairs that I couldn't handle them anymore. So I made them a pair in here and took the lighter weight ones from the kitchen into the dining room. Well, Bertman Barabee gave us this one in the living room, and we bought the one in the dining room. They're from Williamsburg. Kerosene lamp, and Thomas found the fixtures over at Harrisburg, Illinois, and a man told him how to assemble it and made the electric lamp. He did 2 or 3 in the house. That was in the old courthouse that was torn down in 1960. My husband salvaged it and had it restored. It was used in the circuit court's office in the old courthouse, and he restored it. He and the men that work with him restored it, and we consider it quite a valuable piece because of the age of it. Well, this room, this dresser was bought in 1935 at Chicago Furniture Market for Thomas's graduation. His parents went to the furniture market, and they told him he could buy whatever he wanted for his room for a graduation present. And so this is the dresser that he selected. It's solid walnut, and we've had it in our home ever since. He had it at home, of course, and then moved it with us.
And that was in 1935?
Yes, that's when we graduated from high school, and that's when it was. The chair that I'm sitting in is one of the oldest pieces in the room, and it was picked up out of the Ohio River. It had dropped off of a ship that was on fire, the USS Hal, and on the bottom of the seat, the USS Hal was a steamboat that traveled the Ohio River, and this was picked up out of the river from that fire. The pictures on the wall were painted by Aunt Stella. And they're antique frames, and you can tell they've been painted a good many years. The bed is said to be about 200 years old. It's one of the original Jenny Lind beds. That chest of drawers is just a good piece of furniture. We've had it since we've been keeping house, but it was made by Davis Cabinet Company in Nashville, as most of the bedroom furniture was. But this is called a lady's writing desk, and you can gently raise up on the lid, Alan, and see how it works. Now, kind of raise up, and you'll see. You can have your writing stuff in there, hide whatever you want, or junk and so forth.
And the first thing I was going to want you to talk about is the picture of your mom and dad above your head.
Oh, yes, that's a wedding picture in 1905. And she made the costume that she is wearing and the hat. She was 25 years old. Mary Elizabeth Riding and Burton Benson Stout.
And that was in 1905?
Yes. And they were married in Tennessee Ridge, Erin, Tennessee. She was from Tennessee Ridge, a real small place out from Erin. Yes. That was Gwenny Haynes, Gwenny Barclays. It's a very old piece. That is a very old piece. And you could open one of the doors and see how the pigeonholes work.
How old do you think that piece is?
Oh, at least 200 years old, I'd say. It's in 2 pieces, a table and the top. We had a mantel clock that didn't work, and took it to a jeweler down at Paducah and to work on it, and he came to see us one Sunday afternoon and brought his girlfriend and another couple and visited a while and told me that he couldn't fix his clock, my clock or our clock. Tom was still living then. It was too old, and so he brought this one to replace it. And the watercolors might need some note. They are hand painted from Winchester, Virginia. An artist there painted them. The bed is an antique Jenny Lind, single bed. And both chests of drawers are old handmade chests. We bought it, we aired part of it in 1981, and we bought the rest of it in 1982, and we spent a year and a half restoring it because it had been vacant for several years. And we put new walls in the room we're in now. It was built for a bedroom. You'll note that the house has no bedrooms on the first floor. It was a party house, what was called a party house, built in 1912. And a lady had it built that had 3 daughters. Ellen Croft came from Tulu, made her money on the farms. Her husband died, and she got a lot of money out of the river bottom farms and built this house in 1912. And 2 of her neighbors did the same thing, the next two houses. Her brother built the one next door, and then the Barnetts built the other one. And all of them had daughters. This one had 3 daughters. Her brother had 1 daughter, and the Barnetts had 2 daughters. And they were all teenagers. And then it was about the time silk stockings came into being, and the men, the fathers, were stewing about having to buy silk stockings for their daughters that had been wearing cotton ones. And these silk stockings were such a big item for the girls. And so the fathers finally named this block Silk Stocking Row. And it's still, there's 2 or 3 old timers around town that know it as Silk Stocking Row.